We are a city that appreciates diversity and knows the importance of embracing what we have in common and how we differ. Events like this are critical to ensuring that our city's collective voice of inclusion remains strong.
There are great models of interreligious cooperation across the country. I was recently in Omaha, Nebraska, not what I would have thought of as perhaps the cradle of religious tolerance, but in Omaha, a Jewish synagogue, a mosque, I believe it's a Presbyterian church, have bought land together and are building a campus together to build a community together. We're seeing churches rent out space to synagogues, synagogues rent out space to mosques, greater understanding all over. I can think of no better illustration of that than the work of the host committee to put together this program tonight. Gathering together, advancing common values, working side by side, working shoulder by shoulder. And there really is a promised time. And there is no way to get from here to there, from now to then, except by joining together and marching, and sometimes stumbling, through the wilderness, watching this time not for signs and wonders, but for an opportunity to act. When we all join together, when we seize those opportunities to act, then, and to be sure only then, will we be able to say together, Hine ma tov manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good, how lovely it is for people to sit in unity. Let us together recommit ourselves to that holy vision. Thank you very much.
Of the international community, the majority of the human beings are good people. And let us differentiate between our business and the God's business. If God wants us to practice the same religion, He could create us like the angels, very much practicing the same faith. God created us different, for us to work together and for us to know each other. America is a great nation. Simply because people in America came from everywhere to make this wonderful country. I was so excited about coming to America, and we lived in Texas for a while, and when we had Jana, my daughter, Ivy and I felt like Texas is too hot, why don't we move from Texas? Well, I find Tennessee hotter. Politically, I would say. But I believe that Jewish, Christian, Muslims, Hindu, and any other can work together. Since we can all agree that we must respect the constitution of this land and respect its law. You can do anything you want. I have the right to do anything I want within the line of the Constitution. The Muslim community said so many times that they are proud of themselves being part of this nation, but often people would bring names to them, saying, do you remember what Osama bin Laden did? And unfortunately, my name is even Osama. I make it tough for them. But, well, you can find some people belonging to each group. The Muslim community here, and I believe elsewhere, the majority of them, by the rule of the religion, they're supposed to work with others. They're supposed to work with others, and they have to respect the minority belief. We used to say to Jana, where are you from? And she would say, I am from Texas. And we, after long work with her, eventually she said, I am from Tennessee. And I said to her, yes, you are from Tennessee. But the same Jana said to her mom one time, as a result of what the Muslim community went through, I remember going out for lunch with Ivy, and she was about to put her scarf on. And Jana looked to her mom, and she said, Mommy, they will know that we are Muslim. Because a 4-year-old child said this to her mom, Mommy, they will know that we are Muslim. I think we have to be careful while we are talking about other. I think we must welcome disagreement, and we must welcome debate, and we must work together. And we can disagree with each other kindly, but with respect. And we can realize that we live in this land, so we must care about this land. May God help us to be what He desires for us to be. And may God watch over this nation. And may God bless America. Thank you very much.
I really just came tonight really to share out of my own sense and my own experience. One of the things that as I listened to you talk, and you talked about the various faith and how some are on the decline and some are rising. But what I am seeing are a generation of young people who have no faith at all, who simply do not give a damn. And much of their lack of faith has been in watching those of us who claim a faith perspective and claim out of our own experiences a sense of peace and justice and equality, and they see us not getting along and see us not moving and working, even though they hear the rhetoric of our leaders in talking about our common ground, and yet they do not see us working together. And so somehow there has got to come from within us this sense and this desire that we have to seek ways and that we are able to connect and be a part, and to know that it is our faith that guides and motivates us to the particular points that we want to move. Out of my own experience as a Christian, the first thing that I had to do is I had to claim my Christianity. And I had to realize that I have an agenda that has been set for me, an agenda that deals with reconciliation. I had to understand out of the one that I follow, this need to be reconciled back to God. And in that being reconciled back to God, I had to take both ownership of how in my own life and my own experiences I had worked and moved to cause people to feel as though somehow God was not important to them. It's interesting to me tonight that we come and we talk about us being the family of Abraham. But if we are truly going to deal with this issue around reconciliation and to deal with peace and justice, we've got to also realize that we are the children of Sarah and Hagar. That we've got to realize the institutions that were in place and how it was that our ancestor Abraham, in the case of both of them, mistreated them. That the systems and structures and powers that were in place that caused them to make decisions that were not always in their best interest, and caused them in a very real sense to create the kind of alienation that we continue to perpetuate as the children. And stop spending so much time on dwelling on what divides us, but to look at the common grace. But we got to, first of all, before we do that, see how it is that we continue to perpetuate the differences. And how it is that we continue to isolate. That out of my own experience, I spend more time with the folk that I'm not supposed to like. Because how can I embrace a God who created them with the same love that I was created? And I cannot love the creation. I cannot love those of whom they created. I appreciate your comment when you say that we all come from Adam and Eve. It would be nice if we could get back to that place of understanding the unity of which God calls each of us to be in. And that when I hurt, whether I hurt those who are Muslim or Jewish, then I hurt myself. I deprive myself of my own sense of dignity and integrity. And so I don't concentrate on so much on what it is that we have in common, but I concentrate on how it is that I feed those institutions that continue to divide us, and how I right my own personal wrong. For it is the God that I serve that calls me to be reconciled to my brothers and sisters. And as Paul said in his letters to the church, it is all my brothers and sisters. And so I give thanks that as we come this night to the family of Abraham, that I am trying to find out a way that I can work with both the children of Sarah and Abraham.
I feel very, very fortunate and perhaps a little bit humbled hearing all what you have to say, Mark, what you two shared so nicely. It makes you feel good to agree with people who know life as it is, and to agree with you and to understand what you're saying. Kind of makes me very proud and very grateful. But I think it's due to the fact that I had a mother and a father that somehow never saw differences in people. I never did ever hear anyone say, just these few, or just the Catholics, or just the Jews. It was all God's people. And I'm grateful for that, because I know I was reinforced as a student in Rome, 4 years of theological studies, going into the different countries in Europe, in the Middle East. All the people, it seemed like if you treated them nicely, they responded to you in a very nice way. Whether they were the Jews of the Holy Land, or whether they were the Muslims of the Middle East, or the good old Irish up there in Ireland. Well, that's what I've come to really appreciate. Treat people well, and they're going to treat you well. And if we do not treat each other equally well, I don't think we're God's people. Very, very fortunate to know that in the early 1900s, millions of different people came to this land from all over Europe. They came and they made a great nation greater. And it was made up of all kinds of people. And in the last maybe 20, 25 years, we've had people come from all over the world. Nashville, to me, and I look at our 12 o'clock church service, it's really a small United Nations. Every color of the rainbow, every religion, almost every country is represented. And one has to be grateful and rather proud and humble that all these people get along so well. I'm just grateful for my church, school teaching, especially my mother and father, who taught me that every person is a child of God, and that we treat them the way we want them to treat us. And I imagine that's why I'm so grateful to be a part of this panel and to be able to hear what you witnessed to, and hopefully working together to make this great country of America even greater.
Right, as Imam Osama has talked about, I don't see anyone, any Muslim, in America, talking about taking over the United States, talking about the dominance and the importance of Sharia law and how it should displace American law. I don't hear such voices. I guess America is a big country. It's possible there's somebody someplace. But it's hard for me to understand the level of fear that accompanies that argument. Is there someplace in this big country, a mosque, where a preacher is delivering a message, an imam is delivering a message, that I would find objectionable or even offensive? Undoubtedly. But the danger of generalizing from there to an assumption that that's happening in every mosque, or that's happening in most mosques, or that's what Muslims think, is one of the real great dangers. I do think it's possible to raise concerns in a constructive way, to ask questions, just as people in the American Muslim community are doing. You heard Imam Osama talk about his relationship with the Homeland Security folks down here. There are real security concerns. There are bad people in the world. It's evil in the world, no doubt about it. And it is possible to raise concerns, to ask questions, and to do so in a constructive way, and in a way that doesn't begin with the assumption that stereotypes are true, doesn't begin with the assumption that as one Muslim is, so are all Muslims. I guess I'd add two quick observations. One, I certainly agree with Imam Osama that one of the real challenges for the American Muslim community, one of its real strengths as well, is that it is profoundly, deeply, wonderfully disorganized. There is no leader of the American Muslim community.
Yes.
There is no one who you would point to and say, if only he had spoken out. There are lots of voices in the American Muslim community. I think that they face the same challenge we face. It's the second point. It's a more general point about the challenge of the political environment that we live in today. I think it's difficult for moderate voices to get heard. I think it's difficult for people whose points of view are moderate, are nuanced, God forbid nuanced, to break through in the political discussion. It's really easy to gin up the troops with calls to battle on either side of an issue. The battle cry that says, come, let us be moderate together, is rarely one that evokes the same kind of passion